You're watching The Community MMA.
What up, what up? This your boy Chris Cross checking in. This is The Community MMA. While you're watching, hit that subscribe button. If you're not on YouTube and you're on Google Podcasts or Spotify, we welcome you. Got a big show for you today because we're going to recap what happened last night at UFC Vegas 78. We're going to look at some upcoming fights and predictions for UFC 292 just around the corner. And of course, you got Dana White's Contender Series back on Tuesday nights, as well as the last Ultimate Fighter show this Tuesday night following the Contender Series. So there's a lot happening in the UFC. We're going to talk about it. We're going to cover it and get down to the nitty gritty, if you will. But let's first begin with last night's recap because, man, after last week in Nashville, you had a lot of decisions and a boring main event. It was anything but that last night, as you had 9 finishes in 13 fights with about 5 or 6 KOs. So, man, you just never know what's going to happen in this sport. But before we get to those big finishes, we got to discuss Vicente Luque and Rafael dos Anjos, a.k.a. RDA. It was a great fight, battle back and forth, but at the end of the day, Vicente Luque dominated just as I told you he would, winning 49-46 and 48-47 on the other two. So to me, a dominant performance. It really should have been 4-1 on all 3 judges' scorecards, but at the end of the day, it's a unanimous decision. He sort of played it safe, a lot of control time, but it wasn't on the ground. It was stand-up and clinch control with a lot of striking at the same time. So very technical fight. 2 really good fighters on display. And at that point, you had 9 finishes, right? So it's kind of like it is what it is. Even if this goes to a decision, we've already been treated with a bunch of KOs and crazy submissions, including a twister, only the 3rd one in UFC history. But the big story last night was Cub Swanson versus Hakeem Dawodu. This is something everybody's talking about today, right? One fighter appeared to have dominated the fight, but the other fighter got the victory. So let's check that out right now. Here's the live reaction last night, and I couldn't believe the decision. So that'll do it. Cub Swanson and Hakeem Dawodu are heading to a decision in a great fight. Great fight. I mean, you look at significant strikes, 87-66. Dawodu, total strikes 119, 104. Dawodu, control time 310-125. Hakeem Dawodu. Now, Swanson did have a takedown here at the end of the fight, but that won't be enough. Now, the one thing you could look at, though, is head strikes, 49-49. And that tends to be the difference sometimes, but being that it's equal and Dawodu landed more body shots, leg strikes, he should get this round. He led in every round by at least 6 significant strikes, but no more than 8. So the rounds were close, but Dawodu should get a unanimous decision, 30-27. So we'll have to see how this plays out. Both guys standing in the center of the octagon. You never know with these things, man. You never know. Here we go. It's going to be unanimous. So 29-28. Wow, I thought it'd be 30-27. Oh! Cub Swanson even couldn't believe it. Cub Swanson couldn't believe it. What? What? Cub Swanson congratulated Dawodu. And he still got the win. What is going on here, man? What is going on here? Dawodu led in every category, except head strikes. 40. This is highway robbery, man. Highway robbery. But Cub Swanson in the interview now still can't believe it. He's going to move to 29-13. Is he going to retire? So Cub Swanson breaking down now. I don't know. Is this going to be it? We'll hold tight here. Let's see what's going on. So Daniel Cormier is talking to him. He's not taking off the gloves or anything like that, but he does have his family and kids sitting in the front. He's got 3 kids. Looks like 2 boys and a girl. Man, the 2 boys look exactly the same. They look like twins, but they're like 3 years difference. But nonetheless, I thought he might retire there. He was really emotional, but he's not going to. He's going to move to 29-13, featherweight division, UFC Vegas 78. So let me take this opportunity every time I get the chance to take it. The UFC needs a point system. I repeat, the UFC needs a point system. This is not boxing. It's only 3 rounds. The rounds, to me, are meaningless. I want to look at the stats at the end of the fight and be able to tell you who won. When you look at the stats at the end of this fight, it was dominated by Hakeem Dawodu. Now, the one area that was equal was head strikes, 49-49. But Dawodu led in control time. He led in significant strikes. He led in total strikes. He led in body shots. He led in leg strikes. He led in every category and tied in 1. So if there's a point system, you know, maybe every 10 seconds control, you get a point. Maybe every significant strike, you get a point. I don't know how you set it up. But the bottom line is that there's a point system and you get rid of the importance of each round, Dawodu wins the fight. And sometimes you watch these fight and a guy absolutely dominates a round, but gets a 10-9. And then he loses the other 2 very closely. And when you look at the whole fight, one guy won, but the other guy gets a decision. And I just can't take it sometimes. It really, it makes me crazy. The bottom line is Dawodu, whatever you want to say, won this fight. He won the fight, but officially he lost the fight. And it's crazy that these things happen. But it is what it is. As we move on, Khalil Roundtree looked solid last night. And when this guy gets a finish, he gets a finish. I think he's won like 4 straight. Check this out. Khalil Roundtree looking good so far. Just picking Dawkins apart faster. I mean, he's shorter, but and the reach disadvantage isn't hurting him here. He's getting in close. He's keeping the disadvantage to an advantage, really, because he's staying in the pocket. He's staying up close. And, you know, he keeps pressuring Chris Dawkins. Dawkins lands a big right. Oh, it takes a left, dude, right down. Wow, bro. And lands a couple more, and that's it. And he's lucky because he landed a big one to the back of the head, but Herb Dean let it stand, I guess, because it was already over. It was already over. Whoa, dude. And even going back in the day, when Khalil Roundtree wins, he wins in a powerful manner. What a victory, man. Wow. Yeah, so Khalil Roundtree getting the job done, 105 or 6 KOs. I'd have to look to be exact, but it was at least 5, maybe 6. Several submissions, 4 decisions, but even those were all good. I mean, the whole card was great fights last night. That's the bottom line. I mean, everybody should have got a bonus. They had a finish. But nonetheless, Khalil Roundtree looked good. You also had Marcus McGee coming in, making a statement. Ooh, a big right by JP Bays. Now he takes a left from McGee. And these are 2 guys with a lot of striking power. Obviously. Bantamweight division has just been heating up over the last several months. Then next week you got the title on the line at UFC 292. So this division is on the rise. And a leg strike by McGee and a big right. Ooh. JP Bays almost going down there. Still a lot of pop though. Misses on a left-right combination. And McGee's got the perfect range right now because he's got the reach advantage. And he's right at his reach. And JP Bays can't land anything. So Marcus McGee really right where he wants to be right now. JP Bays has missed about 7 strikes in a row. I mean, he's really trying to keep Marcus McGee off of him. But how long will that last? And a big right. And that's it. Wow, the ref didn't even stop it. What? Wow, man. And I have to tell you, this ref here, forget his name. Like, he lets it go for a second. Like, JP Bays just caught a big right hand, and Marcus McGee stopped and started putting his hands up, and the ref was going to let it go for a second until he realized that it, needed to be stopped. Boom. Yeah, come on, man. Yeah, and it turns out the ref did stop it, but it just wasn't like a big stop. He kind of pushed McGee back a little bit. The fight was stopped, and then he went over and held the other fighter. So he did stop the fight, so I take that back. I stand corrected. But in other fights, that ref lets the fight go on and on and on. But Marcus McGee looked good last night. Terrence McKinney took a fight on short notice against Mike Breeden. You remember Terrence McGee, right? 7-second KO finish versus Matt Frivola. Put him on the map. He's kind of been 50-50 since then. Probably lost more than he won, really. But he made a statement last night. Terrence McKinney landed some big shots here. First minute gone. Now a big left. Breeden beginning to cover up, though, but he gets out of it. And he's backed up against the fence. This isn't good against McKinney. Ooh, a nice left uppercut, a right knee. Boy, McKinney could use a first-round finish. Struggled over the last 4 or 5 fights since that Frivola 7-second KO. Now McKinney's got the back. And he drives a knee, lands it, stands up. Big left. Oh, Breeden's in trouble. Breeden's covering up. Tagnone's looking at this, and it's over. And, man, not a big finish, and Mike Breeden's arguing it. But the bottom line is Terrence McKinney is not a guy you want to be stuck up against the fence against while he's pounding away. And Terrence McKinney is pumped up, back in the win column, and he needed this. I think this guy is going to continue to fight well as he gets more experience. Yeah, and Terrence McKinney's young, so look for him to, he'll struggle here and there against really good fighters. He'll beat guys he's supposed to beat pretty easily, and it's like he's just got to find his groove and get that one big win against a big name or a contender, and then the sky's the limit for him. But he's still young. He's got time. As far as last night, we had an average night. The Dawodu debacle in which he was robbed by Swanson, we could have been 8-5 easily. But we won with Damon Blackshear, Martin Budai, Terrence McKinney, Marcus McGee, Josh Fremd, Yasmin Lucindo came through, and Vicente Luque. So we're still 21-7 in the main event. We're 213 and 124 on the year. And again, as I say every week, we'll take that every year. It's not always going to be that easy. As you saw a night like last night, 13 fights, it was tough. But we should have been 8-5 and been able to say that it was a good night, but instead it was just an average night because of that robbery. And, some people probably lost big because of that. Yeah, Bob saying I was robbed from a 13-leg parlay that paid $36K for a $100 bet. That's crazy. Only fight I lost was robbed on. Yeah. I made a backup bet that paid $10K. So I hit an 18-leg last week, paid huge, boxing, UFC, MLB. And when you're making an 18-leg parlay, that's crazy, man. That's just crazy. It only takes one of those to go against you for you to lose. So to hit that is absolutely amazing. As we continue forward this week, huge week, Dana White's Contender Series on Tuesday night. That's going to be ridiculous. The Ultimate Fighter finale goes down on Tuesday night after that at about 10 p.m. So by about 11 p.m. we'll have the full card for UFC 292 because these fighters already know who won, and they'll be fighting at UFC 292 in the prelims, aka Tough Finale, intertwined in the UFC 292 card. So that's exciting. But you got titles on the line, right? We already told you Aljamain Sterling is going to beat Sugar Sean O'Malley, aka the Sugar Show. But you have another title on the line between Zhang Weili and Amanda Lemos. And this is a division, women's strawweight division, where the title's been changing hands. And could it change hands once again? I don't know. Let's get to the prediction. In the women's strawweight division, for the women's strawweight division title at UFC 292, this is also your co-main event. Zhang Weili, the champ, 23-3, takes on Amanda Lemos, who comes in at 13-2. And this is an interesting fight because this title is like a merry-go-round. It switched hands so many times that one would believe that Lemos has to have a chance here, right? They're both 5'4". Lemos getting older. She's 36, but Wiley 34. Lemos 2-inch reach advantage. She fights left-handed. Wiley is a switch stance fighter. That shouldn't bother Lemos though, because really, if you're Zhang Weili, you probably want to line up left-handed, as lefties are used to fighting right-handed fighters. Lemos 4.5 significant strikes per minute. Wiley 5.8. That's ridiculous. Wiley lands 2 takedowns over the course of 3 rounds on average. Lemos 1.1 over the course of 3 rounds. Now, takedown defense will be important. 66% for Wiley, 81% for Lemos. Wiley's coming off the win over Carla Esparza by submission to get the title. She beat Joanna Jędrzejczyk in a rematch by second round KO. Before that, she lost the belt to Nama Yunus. Actually, she lost to Nama Yunus twice, one by KO, one by split decision, and before that she was unstoppable. So 2 of her 3 losses coming in the last 4 fights. Now, Amanda Lemos is on the rise, beating Marina Rodriguez, good fighter, by KO. Beating Michelle Waterson-Gomez by submission. She did lose to Jessica Andrade by submission, and that was back in 2022. It seems like Jessica Andrade has fallen off since then. She beat Angela Hill by split decision, beat Montserrat Conejo Ruiz by KO, Lavinha Souza by KO. Now, I do believe Amanda Lemos has an opportunity to win this fight. Starting MMA late, right? 36 years old, just 16 fights in the career. So what this means too is that she's getting better every time she comes out. So whatever she was last time, she'll be better this time. And of course, this title is switching hands off and on every time there's a fight, it seems like. From Jędrzejczyk to Andrade to Wiley to Nama Yunus to Esparza back to Wiley. Something like that. It just keeps switching hands. So you would believe that this title would switch hands, but I do believe Zhang Weili will keep the belt here. I think she's going to win this fight. She's more active. She can land takedowns, although I don't know if she wants to go to the ground with Lemos. I think Lemos wants to land takedowns early and often if she's going to have a chance. But I still think the power of Weili is going to be big in this fight, and that's going to lead her to victory. Could go to a decision, but if you're Weili, you want to get the finish, that would be better. But either way, she moves to 24-3 with the win, keeps the belt, and finally we get a champ that can retain the belt, and we'll see for how long. This fight goes down in the women's strawweight division at UFC 292. Yeah, so that's going to be a great fight. I mean, Zhang Weili is a big-time fighter. But because the belt switches hands so much, it just shows you the depth of the division. And we haven't done one in a while where we ask everyone in polls what the best division is. We get down to 3 or 4, and we get the number 1 division, which has always been the lightweight division, other than one time it was welterweight. But you always have bantamweight in the final. You always have women's strawweight in the final poll, and that's because the depths of the divisions are ridiculous. So maybe not the biggest trending night at UFC 292 coming up, but you have 2 of the 3 top divisions with belts on the line, and most people think the champions will win. But I'm here to tell you that divisions are so deep that you never really know. You just never know. So looking forward to that. Now in another fight, you got Neil Magny taking a fight on late notice against Ian Gary. And you might hear this again, but guys like Neil Magny don't do this and risk their ranking, taking on an undefeated fighter in short notice. So big ups to Neil Magny. And let's check out this prediction and break this thing down. In the welterweight division at UFC 292, Neil Magny takes this late fight. He comes in at 28-11. He steps in against Ian Gary, who's a perfect undefeated 12-0. And you got to give Neil Magny a lot of credit. A lot of guys that are ranked contenders will not take this fight on late notice, but Neil Magny isn't one of those guys. Both guys 6'3". Magny's 36, Ian Gary's 25. So one guy kind of on the downward trend slightly, leaving the peak in Neil Magny. Ian Gary just getting ready to hit his peak, and we'll see how these two collide. Now, Ian Gary should be leading in the stats because he doesn't, the competition isn't that of Neil Magny, right? Gary, 6.9 significant strikes per minute, Magny 3.5. Ian Gary will dominate on the feet. Neil Magny's game is takedown, 2.3 over 3 rounds, so nearly 1 per round. And the fact is, Ian Gary has a 63% takedown defense against weaker fighters. Now, the Haitian sensation, aka Neil Magny, 56% takedown defense. He's coming off the win against Phil Rowe by split decision. Didn't look great there, right? Just 29 significant strikes. Probably should have lost that fight. Lost to Gilbert Burns by submission. Beat D-Rod by submission. Lost to Shavkat. He should have. Beat Max Griffin and Jeff Neal. So Neil Magny's kind of beating who he should beat. On the other hand, Ian Gary beat Daniel Rodriguez by KO in the first round. It took Neil Magny 3 rounds to beat D-Rod. He beat Song Keenan by 3rd round KO. Beat Gabe Green by decision. Beat Darian Weeks by decision. Now, I'd love to see Ian Gary win this fight, but it's going to be tough because Neil Magny's going to take this thing to the ground. He's going to try to tie up Ian Gary. And if Ian Gary can't get off, this is one of those fights where a guy's on the rise and they face a veteran, and the veteran does what they got to do to win and just controls the heck out of him. But I'm going to believe that Ian Gary gets better every fight. And the fact that Neil Magny's taking this on late notice could be a factor too, because he's going to have to cut a little bit of weight a little bit quicker than he wants to. But at the same time, Ian Gary's that dude. And even if I lose on this prediction, I'm going to win a lot more in the future on Ian Gary. So I'm going to lean with Ian Gary slightly. I don't even see the odds up yet. So in my opinion, Ian Gary's going to win on significant strikes. He'll probably get taken down 2 times. He's going to have to get up on one of those and win 2 out of 3 rounds. Could be a split decision here. 2-3 years from now, Ian Gary KOs Magny. Hopefully he does it in this fight. But right now, it's going to be a very close fight. But I think Ian Gary pulls this thing out to meet the 13-0 welterweight division. UFC 292. Yeah, and it's going to be a tougher fight for Ian Gary compared to, Neil Magny versus Jeff Neal. I think Neil Magny's a tougher fight. So you got to give credit to Ian Gary for taking this fight, both of them, on short notice. Because Ian Gary's prepared for Jeff Neal, which would be more of a striking situation. Now the takedown defense will become huge. And he probably hasn't been, fighters are always working on this stuff. But you're also preparing for the fighter that you're fighting. And you go through a whole camp thinking you're facing Jeff Neal. And instead you're going to face Neil Magny, who's going to try to tie you up. But I think Ian Gary's stronger than Neil Magny. He'll get inside, he'll land a powerful shot. He'll probably be taken down once, but at the end of the day, he'll get back up, especially if it's a second takedown. He's got 2 chances to get back up, lead in significant strikes in 2 rounds, and get a decision win here if it isn't a KO. So look for him to get the victory. Now, as we jump into the Q&A, Angela Real says, this is the end for Hamza. He can't fight nobodies anymore. Even if he wins the title, he has to defend it against the best ranked fighter. No more hype jobs. I hear you, and everyone has their opinion, but my opinion is Hamza beats everybody. I mean everybody. Much like John Jones, you're going to fast forward 5 years, and you're going to see Hamza with a ridiculous record with probably no losses. And if he does lose, he'll just come back and win in a rematch. But I don't see him losing anytime soon. I just don't. Mario Castor says, that was insane, bro. I had your same reaction looking at Cub Swanson versus Hakeem Dawodu. I mean, it was a straight robbery. Francesca Sakat says, dang, Dawodu was robbed. I mean, absolutely. Everyone that watched that fight knows he was robbed. I mean, Cub Swanson knows Dawodu was robbed. That's why he was congratulating him after the fight. Another user saying they investigate James Krause, but never the judges. Gross. Al Tapo Mactapo says, I don't understand. And I don't think you're the only one. Nobody understands. Kenneth Brunner is back, talking about Dana White's Contender Series, Tom Nolan's KO. Nolan is legit great KO. He needs to fight at welterweight, though. He won't make weight very much longer. He's young and still growing. Make the switch now. Yep. And if I'm him, I get a fight in maybe. And then, take 8 months off and really work on getting your power up, work on getting your weight up, your strength, and come back and welterweight just like Kenneth is saying. I think it's a great idea. In another fight, Brunner says, this fight was amateurish. Almeida shouldn't have been given a contract. He is too unskilled in MMA. And the crazy part is that Dana White gave out contracts to every winner. And I think that's just what you do in week one to get the hype going, right? All of a sudden you got 5 new guys converging on the UFC. You got other fighters that have now won titles through the Contender Series, like a Jamal Hill. You got Sean O'Malley fighting for a title. The Contender Series is huge, and this is why as the weeks go on, it grows and grows. Now, last year in week 2, it was terrible. I think it was all decisions, and Dana White was highly upset. So look for him. If this is just an average night, he's going to go off in a negative way, because the first week you give everyone a contract. If it's a bad night, you still hype it up. If the second week is a bad night, that's when Dana White goes off, because he's trying to build momentum for the following weeks. So that's what I'm going to be looking to see, if these fighters this week can finish. Because if decisions aren't getting you in the UFC each and every week, that's only week 1. That's only week 1. So we'll have to wait and see, but it's coming quickly. Listen, it's been a great show. We recapped UFC Vegas 78, the robbery of Swanson versus Dawodu. Vicente Luque got the win. We had an average night, 7-6. But at the end of the day, it was a winning record, not a losing record. So even on a rough night, we'll take that every time. For now, this is your boy Chris Cross. I hope you have a great day, and God bless. And as always,